So we're going to pick up where we left off last time. Last time that I posted a video, we were in Wellington, and we've made a little bit of progress since then. So I'll go ahead and show you guys the next couple of stops, talk about what we've done in each of these places. Alright, so from Wellington down across to the ferry to Picton, then Abel, Tasman, Westport, Lake Mahinapua, Franz Josef, down to Wanaka, and then into Queenstown. So from Wellington, we took the Interislander Ferry to get from the North Island to the South Island, and it was more of like a cruise ship almost than a ferry. Pretty big ship. Looked up the numbers on it. Ship weighs 22,365 metric tons, so a pretty big ship. And as an interesting fact for you, it's just over 22,000 metric tons. The invasive possums in New Zealand every day eat just over 21,000 metric tons of vegetation. So every day they eat the equivalent of our giant ferry ship that we took across, which is one of the reasons that there's such a big problem here. Fun little factoid for you. Anyways, so yeah, going from there, came across and landed in Picton, and the bus took us from Picton up to Abel, Tasman. We stayed in a little town called Kaiteriteri, which is just outside of Abel, Tasman National Park. And we're supposed to have 2 nights there. Abel, Tasman is supposed to have some really good hikes. So we have our first night, also accommodation. I'm going to do a video at some point about some of the lessons that we've learned, and one of those is kind of booking your accommodations ahead of time. So we got into Abel, Tasman, and as far as the bus is concerned, we're spending 2 days there, but as far as the hostel is concerned, we're only booked up for 1 night, and they're all full, so no space for us for a second night. So when we got in there, we spent a few hours walking around town, going to other hostels, going to motels, going to bed and breakfasts, and everyone was all booked up everywhere we went. So we finally found a campsite that had some cabins, and there was one of those available, so we booked that up right away. And then the next day we got up, we're planning on doing some hiking and that sort of thing, and the weather turned kind of crummy, so we thought, well, why not just get back on the bus early and go on since we can't do anything. So we talked to the bus driver, and he was like, oh yeah, there's a few empty seats, come back when we're loading and we should be able to get you on. So we went and canceled our reservation at that little cabin that we had found the night before, and then when the buses were getting loaded, it turned out that there was not empty seats, and so we were going to be staying there another day. So then we had to go find accommodations again, which was much easier the second time. We were actually able to get accommodation a second night at our same hostel that we had been staying at, which was good. It was just kind of a bit of a fiasco all around, though, trying to figure out if we're staying, if we're going, where we're sleeping, get all that figured out, but we did finally get it figured out, and that was good. So, yeah. Second day that we had there, we kind of, since the weather had been crummy in the morning, didn't go out and do our big hikes, but it turned nice a little bit later, so we went and played in the ocean and spent the day kind of walking the beach and collecting seashells, which was a lot of fun doing that as well. So after Abel, Tasman is down to Westport. So on the way to Westport, we stopped off at this lake that has eels in it. There was a whole bunch of these big eels, and they were out there so you could, kind of throw bread or whatever, and the ducks would eat on the top and the eels would be underneath, and the eels, it was just a big mass of them all, swimming around each other and kind of playing with the food and whatever. So I ended up going and waiting out in there a little bit. Most of them stayed away from me. A few were kind of curious. One came up and gave me a little kiss on the foot, but that was pretty fun. And let's see, after that we got into Westport and we stayed at Basil's Hostel. And this place was pretty sweet. They had paintings all over the walls of the hostel, walls of the buildings, where they had, I don't know if they hired somebody or somebody that works there or what, but they had these pretty cool paintings everywhere. So definitely explored the entire hostel just to see all of those, and that was pretty cool. And then that night we had a bonfire down on the beach. They had sent out some volunteers a little bit earlier in the evening to collect driftwood and set up a big bonfire out there for us. And then the buses took us down there a little bit just before dark, right before the sunset, and dropped us off. And we had a big bonfire, stayed out there for a few hours. There were some pretty nice stars out there. And yeah, it was really, really pretty out there. And had some s'mores, you know, made friends with people that had marshmallows. So got to sneak a few marshmallows off of people that I met there. And then once we were done with that, we had to walk back to the hostel. It was about a 40-minute walk to get back, and fortunately, did not get lost, so that was pretty good. The bus driver, when we were driving out there, said, okay, pay attention, because you have to walk back, and I guarantee half of you are going to get lost. So, did not get lost. Pretty good stuff. Let's see, after Westport, we got on to Lake Mahinapua. On the way to Lake Mahinapua, we stopped at the Pancake Rocks and Blowholes. These Pancake Rocks are just thin layers of rock that you can see. They're very stacked and look like a pile of pancakes from the way they're worn out. And the Blowholes is you got in these big areas that have kind of worn out. As the ocean is coming in and out, you're getting these huge surges that are building up in them. And then there's some spots where it's carved out up into the land, so this huge surge will come in, and then you'll get a puff of steam, well, not steam, I guess, ocean mist, puff of ocean mist coming out of the hillside further up, which was really cool to see, and pretty terrifying. Looked like you would not want to fall into the ocean there. You would get destroyed pretty fast. And when we got in there, they had a big pork roast dinner for everybody. And then there was a costume party that was there where you're supposed to take the initials of your name and then make an outfit from that. So I ended up not going to that. I wasn't feeling great, so I went to bed early and missed out on that. But it sounded like it was a pretty good time from the people who did go. And let's see, after Lake Mahinapua, we got on to Franz Josef. And Franz Josef is beautiful. It's a Franz Josef Glacier is the name of this glacier that's here, and it's up in kind of the rainforest, just off of these mountains. You got rainforest, you know, really some nice vegetation, and then the glacier in the background coming down off of these mountains. So really pretty there. We had 2 days in Franz Josef, and that was beautiful there. Yeah. Kind of relaxing time, walked around town some, did some hikes, got to, you know, see the glacier a little bit from a distance. I didn't go close. They have helicopter tours where you can go look at it, or you can get dropped off on it and hike around for a little bit, and then they pick you up and bring you back, but those were too expensive, so I did not do those. I did talk to one of the guys at one of the companies there, and he said that he thinks there are 16 helicopters running from Franz Josef up to the glacier, which is quite a lot. It's a pretty small town. I think walking around it was like 80% tourists and 20% people that work there, and you know, a few people that actually live there. But yeah, it's a very small town, but a lot of stuff going on there. So yeah, I had lunch one day. I just sat down and watched the helicopters. You could get right up across the fence from where they're landing. So I sat there and watched helicopters for like an hour, which was pretty awesome. In Franz Josef, we stayed at the hostels called Rainforest Retreat. They say they have the largest hot tub in all of New Zealand. You could probably get 20, 25 people in it, so definitely the largest hot tub that I've ever sat in. That was kind of a neat thing for them there, and yeah, they had a pretty nice facility as well. After Franz Josef, we go and climb over the mountains and come back down on the other side towards Wanaka. And there is an amazing difference in the foliage, I guess, from one side of the mountains to the other. On the Franz Josef side, you're in the rainforest, and as soon as you get over them, you're back out into more grass and shrubs and much drier and not nearly as green. So it's amazing how the storms come in and get trapped on the one side, drop all their moisture, and then, you know, anything that gets across doesn't really rain, I guess. So yeah, it was pretty cool to see that. So Wanaka, we stopped on the way to Wanaka. There's some nice reflective lakes that we got to do some hikes at and walk around and see those a little bit. Take some pictures in the reflective water of mountain peaks in the background, which is really pretty. And then in Wanaka, Lake Wanaka, there is a famous tree. I did a post on Instagram about this little famous tree as well. And it's some little tree that there used to be a fence running in this one side of the lake. I guess maybe before they filled the lake up. I don't know why there was a fence just a little ways into the water. But there was this fence and a fence post, a wooden fence post there that this little tree started growing out of. A seed got there in the wind or something, and this tree started growing on this fence post 77 years ago at least. I guess they don't really know exactly when it started, but there's some lady who remembers, oh, I remember seeing that tree growing in whatever year. So it's at least 77 years ago that this tree has started growing. And it's in the last few years become a rather popular spot. Photographers from all over the world come out and take pictures of it. It is pretty neat to see just a tree in the water. You'd expect it to die, but it seems to be doing all right. So that was pretty cool there in Wanaka. And they did have an Iron Man. Yeah, like an Iron Man was going on when we got into town. So there's a bunch of people everywhere, so we kind of watched that a little bit. Saw, some people coming on the cheer for the finish line. You give them a little cheer and congratulate them on their accomplishment for that. Our second day in Wanaka, we went out for a big hike. We met a lovely girl at one of the hostels here who was going to come along and go on our hike with us. And it quickly turned from a actual hike into just kind of leisurely walking around the lake and not really accomplishing much of anything. And we had a really great time. Got to just, have a nice easy stroll and go dip our feet in the lake a few times. And we found a tennis ball, so we threw that around a bunch. And it was nice. It was good and relaxing. And then yesterday we got from Wanaka down into Queenstown, which we did not do a whole ton on the way down between them. One thing I do want to talk about is going to be Puzzling World. I think I might make a little video for them by themselves, though. Queenstown itself is the adrenaline capital of New Zealand, so if you like skydiving or bungee jumping or flying fox or canyon swinging or anything like that, apparently this is the place to be. I'm not doing any of those things because they are all so expensive. We did get to stop off at the original bungee jump, which is on the way into Queenstown. So we got to have lunch there and watch some people jump off the bridge. It was AJ Hackett, I guess, was one of the kind of pioneers of bungee jumping. So this is the place that he and his friends started when they just were getting bungee jumping started. So that about catches us up. We're in Queenstown now. We've got just a few days left in New Zealand before we are done here. We've got another day in Queenstown, and then just a few more days after that in a couple other towns, and then we'll be flying on. My dad Matthew will be going back to the US, and I will be moving on to Australia and starting my travels as a solo traveler. I've been rambling a long time, so I'll let you guys go, and I will keep you updated soon.